that forced Florence out of the group has only worsened, and after an abortive attempt at a solo career, she winds up on welfare. On February 22, 1976, the torment ends. Florence is found dead of a heart attack. A devastated Diana flies to Detroit to attend the funeral.
In the shadows of Detroit's Hitsville, USA, a golden empire rose, Motown, the sound that gave the world hope, love, and unbreakable soul. But every time a star dared to walk away from Barry Gordy's iron grip, darkness followed. Brutal, unrelenting darkness. One collapsed mid-song on a Virginia stage, clutching her head as the lights went cold. Gone at just 24, her radiant voice silenced forever by a hidden killer no one dared name. A founding queen of the most glamorous trio faded into poverty, her heart giving out in a freezing apartment while a secret notebook full of explosive truths vanished the moment she was gone. A golden-voiced heartthrob was found slumped in a locked car, cash still in his pocket. Overdose ruled, but whispers say he was about to expose everything. A first lady of soul lost her voice to cancer that struck with terrifying speed, her final scribbled words, "They silenced me." And the tragedies kept coming. Heart attacks in the night, bodies pulled from rivers, families torn apart by secrets that died with them. 7 legends, 7 agonizing ends, all after they tried to break free. Coincidence? Or something far darker, a curse woven into the very grooves of those timeless records? If you think the Motown curse is just a rumor, stick around. Because once you hear the full, bone-chilling truth, you won't sleep the same. Hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications if you dare to go deeper into the darkness that swallowed the greatest voices soul ever knew. This message came to us anonymously, slipped under the door of our studio late one night in an unmarked envelope. No return address, just a handwritten note on faded Motown stationery. I worked the shadows at Hitsville for 18 years. I saw things, heard things. They told us never to speak. But some voices won't stay buried. Read this, then decide if the curse is real. I was there when it happened, backstage, in the offices, in the quiet corners where the real deals were made. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the truth they tried to bury with the bodies. Let me tell you about Melvin Franklin, and then Jimmy Ruffin. 2 men who carried the bass line of Motown in their bones and paid the price when they started asking too many questions. Seven. Melvin Franklin, the voice that stopped beating from the inside. Melvin "Blue" Franklin wasn't just the bass of the Temptations. He was the heartbeat, that deep, rumbling foundation under every "my girl," every "ain't too proud to beg." He stayed loyal longer than most, right up until the end. But loyalty has a cost at Motown, and Melvin started feeling it in his chest years before anyone admitted it. By the early 90s, the group was still touring, still recording, but Melvin's health was crumbling. Rheumatoid arthritis from the cortisone shots they gave him to keep performing in the 60s. Diabetes creeping in. Seizures that came out of nowhere. He collapsed during rehearsals more than once, but Barry Gordy's machine kept rolling. Smiles for the cameras, no complaints. Then came February 1995. On the 17th, Melvin suffered a series of violent seizures at his home in Los Angeles. He slipped into a coma at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Doctors fought for 6 days, but on February 23, 1995, his heart just stopped. Age 52. Official cause: complications from brain seizures leading to heart failure. Clean, quiet, no scandal. But here's what they don't tell you, what I heard whispered in the halls after the news broke. Melvin had been talking, not loud, not to the press, but to close friends in the group and a couple of us old staffers. He was tired of the royalty checks that never matched the sales. He started digging into old contracts, comparing numbers. "We're singing platinum records," he'd say in those late-night calls, "but my family's still scraping." He mentioned pulling together evidence, receipts, memos, proof that the label had shorted the original Temptations for decades. Days before the seizures hit, Melvin told one bandmate he'd had a dream, The old lineup, David, Paul, Eddie, the ones already gone, standing in a circle, reaching for him. "They were pulling me in," he said, "like they didn't want me left behind." He laughed it off, but his voice cracked. He was scared. After he died, the royalty disputes? Poof. Suddenly resolved. New policies rolled out quietly. No more old claims honored. The papers he was gathering never surfaced. Family said they looked everywhere. Gone. At the funeral, the remaining temptations stood silent. No big speeches about justice or unpaid dues, just heads down. Smokey Robinson sang a tribute, beautiful as always, but even he looked haunted. Barry Gordy didn't show. No flowers, no statement. Some of us who knew the inside joked darkly. Barry put a curse on his heart. Voodoo? Maybe not literal, but power like that doesn't need spells. It just squeezes until something breaks. Melvin's heart stopped beating from the inside. Slow poison of stress, secrets, and a system that never lets go. I still hear his bass in old tracks and wonder if he knew too much. If asking for what was his got him pulled under. 6. Jimmy Ruffin, drowned in the family curse. Then there's Jimmy Ruffin, older brother to David, the one who fell hardest. Jimmy carried the same golden voice, but he walked a different path. What becomes of the broken-hearted was his cry, and it haunted him long after the charts forgot it. Jimmy left Motown's orbit earlier, chasing freedom in the UK, hosting radio, fighting his own demons. But the family shadow followed. David's overdose in '91 shattered him. Jimmy became the anti-drug voice, warning kids, but he never stopped believing something darker killed his brother. Not just coke, but silence enforced. By 2014, Jimmy was 78, living in Las Vegas, still singing when he could. Heart issues had plagued him for years, echoes of the Ruffin family curse, people said. On November 17, 2014, he passed in a Las Vegas hospital. Cause: complications from heart problems, pneumonia that turned vicious. No autopsy drama, just another quiet exit. But listen close. Jimmy had started talking again, not publicly, but in private circles. He linked David's death to bigger things: Motown's old ties, money trails that led to shady places, people who didn't like loose ends. He told a friend he was thinking of writing it down. A book maybe, connecting the dots from David to the others. The family curse isn't drugs, he'd say. It's what happens when you try to speak. His body was found after days in hospital, but rumors flew in Detroit circles. He looked too peaceful, like someone had held him underwater metaphorically, or literally. Whispers of drowning in his own fluids, lungs filled like the Detroit River swallowed Shorty Long back in '69. No proof, of course, just the family pattern. Ruffins who dig too deep don't surface whole. At the burial in Palm Memorial Park, no big Motown delegation. Barry Gordy sent a note, polite as ever. But Jimmy's kids spoke quietly about unfinished conversations, letters he meant to send. And the strangest part? Some old Detroit folks swear they've heard it. Two voices duetting under the city lights, near the river. Jimmy and David, harmonizing, broken-hearted, like they never got to in life. A family curse that won't end. The brothers still singing, still warning. I worked Motown long enough to know, voices like theirs don't die easy. They echo, they pull others in. If you're reading this, ask yourself, how many more have to stop breathing before we admit the empire was built on more than music? The envelope's empty now, the story's yours. Believe it or don't. But sleep with the lights on. 5. Tammy Terrell, The Angels Struck Down First. Tammy Terrell was pure magic, the kind of voice that could make you believe in forever love, even in a world as cutthroat as Motown. She was just 22 when she stepped into Hitsville, USA in 1965, fresh from Philadelphia, with that innocent smile and a tone like honey over velvet. Barry Gordy spotted her right away, molding her into the label's sweetheart, pairing her with Marvin Gaye for those timeless duets. Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Your Precious Love, You're All I Need to Get By. They weren't just songs, they were spells that had America hooked. On stage, their chemistry was electric, eyes locked, bodies swaying like one soul split in two. Fans swore they were lovers off stage too, but behind the glamour, Tammy was breaking. It all shattered on October 14, 1967 at 8:45 p.m. sharp under the glaring lights of the Gammon Gymnasium at Hampton-Sydney College in Farmville, Virginia. They were midway through Your Precious Love, the crowd roaring, when Tammy clutched her head mid-note. A piercing cry cut through the music. She stumbled forward, eyes wide with terror, and collapsed right into Marvin's arms. He caught her just as her knees buckled, the band screeching to a halt, the audience frozen in dead silence. Marvin cradled her on the stage floor, whispering her name, while paramedics rushed in from the wings. I heard from a roadie who was there. The air went ice cold, like the room itself knew something evil had slipped in. Doctors at a nearby hospital first called it exhaustion, Motown's favorite cover story. But tests revealed the horror. A malignant brain tumor on the right side, aggressive and unforgiving. She was only 23. Whispers flew back to Detroit. It wasn't random. Tammy had been in a toxic romance with David Ruffin, the Temptations' lead, a charmer with a dark side. Insiders said he'd beaten her senseless, once smashing her head with a hammer during a rage, another time cracking her skull with his motorcycle helmet in a parking lot brawl. Those blows, they said, sparked the tumor, turning love into a death sentence. David denied it, of course, but the bruises on her face, we all saw them under the makeup at rehearsals. Motown buried it deep. Barry Gordy himself ordered the silence. No tragedies in our house of hits. They kept pumping out her old tracks, slapping her smiling face on album covers, pretending she was fine. Tammy endured 8 brutal surgeries over 3 years, her vibrant body wasting away to 93 pounds, confined to a wheelchair, blind in one eye, her trademark hair shaved off. Marvin visited her bedside at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital in Philadelphia, singing their duet softly, hoping his voice could pull her back. A nurse confided to me later. In her lucid moments, Tammy would grip Marvin's hand and whisper, "I just want to sing for me now." The end came on March 16, 1970, at 8:55 a.m. in a quiet room at Graduate Hospital in Philadelphia. She slipped into a coma after her final surgery on January 21st, never waking. Her sister found her first, arriving for a visit to see the monitors flatlining, nurses rushing in too late. Age 24, gone. Her medical files? Vanished within weeks, pulled by some invisible hand. No autopsy details released. Motown issued a bland statement. No tribute concert, nothing. But the rumors, oh, they exploded. Some said it was a blood contract with the devil, signed in Gordy's office to launch the empire, and Tammy's fall marked the first payment due. Marvin confided to friends he dreamed of her ghost nightly, her voice echoing, "Motown will take your life too." He never recovered, retreating into isolation for years. I still shiver thinking about it. Hitsville's halls felt haunted after that. Engineers swore they heard faint harmonies in empty studios, like Tammy was trapped, singing warnings to the living. If Tammy was the angel who fell first, she opened the gates to hell for the rest. Her death wasn't illness. It was the curse awakening, feeding on the broken and the brave. Hit subscribe. 4. Florence Ballard, erased and left to die in the cold. Florence Ballard was the fire starter, the one who built the Supremes from nothing. Her powerhouse voice the foundation that held Diana Ross and Mary Wilson up. Born in Detroit's Brewster Douglas projects, she formed the Primettes in 1959, belting out soul that could shake walls. By 1961, Motown signed them, renaming them the Supremes. Flo's deep, gritty tone powered early hits like "Where Did Our Love Go" and "Baby Love." She was the leader, the heart, the one with the laugh that lit up rooms. But Barry Gordy had other plans. He saw dollar signs in Diana's polished glamour, her Hollywood-ready smile. Flo? Too raw, too real. They pushed her back in photos, muted her vocals and mixes, labeled her unstable when she fought back. By summer 1967, Flo was out, fired during a Vegas show at the Flamingo Hotel, replaced mid-tour. No fanfare, just a payoff and a gag order. She tried solo, signed with ABC Records in 1968, dropped "It Doesn't Matter How I Say It" that fall. But radio blackballed her, Motown's invisible hand at work. Stations got calls, "Don't play Flo." Interviews canceled overnight. By 1970, she was broke, living in a rundown apartment on Buena Vista Street in Detroit, scrubbing floors for cash, raising 3 daughters alone. Her husband, Tommy Chapman, a former Motown chauffeur, split amid the chaos. The whispers started then. Flo kept a small black notebook, her Motown diary, crammed with dirt. Gordy's affairs with artists, rigged contracts skimming royalties, mafia ties funneling cash through the label. A friend overheard her say, "If I spill this, they'll bury me." In early February 1976, she appeared on a local Detroit TV spot at WXYZ Studios, looking frail but fierce, talking comeback. "I'm singing for my girls now," she said, smiling weakly. Insiders buzzed. She was prepping a memoir, shopping it quietly. Then, on February 21, 1976, around 11 p.m., Flo collapsed in her living room, clutching her chest, gasping. Her eldest daughter, Nicole, then 7, found her first, screaming for help. Neighbors rushed her to Mount Carmel Mercy Hospital on West Outer Drive, Detroit, where doctors stabilized her overnight. Tommy visited at midnight, said she smiled and drifted to sleep. But at 7:30 a.m. on February 22nd, the phone rang. "Get here fast." Tommy arrived by 8 a.m., waited 30 minutes in the lobby. At 10:05 a.m. exactly, the doctor emerged. Cardiac arrest from coronary thrombosis, a blood clot choking her artery. Age 32, dead. The notebook? Gone by the time family searched her apartment that afternoon. Drawers rifled, locks jimmied, no trace. Autopsy cited hypertension, obesity, but friends whispered poison. Something slipped to trigger the clot. No Motown brass at the funeral on February 27th at New Bethel Baptist Church. No Gordy, no flowers from Diana. Only Mary Wilson stood by the casket, holding Flo's cold hand, tears streaming. Diana sent a wreath later, but whispers said she skipped to avoid questions. The crowd outside murmured. They erased her alive, now dead too. Rumors ignited like wildfire. Old Hitsville staff swore Flo's raspy ghost haunted the studios, microphones picking up faint con echoes at 3 a.m., singing "Stop in the Name of Love" with a bitter twist. Some claimed Diana had cursed her in a jealous rage during a 1966 fight, vowing, "You'll fade away." Others tied it to the mafia. Flo knew too much about Gordy's shady deals, and her heart attack was a message: silence or stop breathing. I saw Flo's fire dim in those final years. But her death? It reeked of setup. Buried at Detroit Memorial Park Cemetery in Warren, Michigan, her stone reads simple: beloved wife and mother. But her voice? It echoes in the wind, accusing, unfinished. The curse didn't just kill Flo, it devoured her legacy, leaving questions that chill me still. This message came to us anonymously, slipped under the door of our studio late one night in an unmarked envelope. No return address, just a handwritten note on faded Motown stationery. I worked the shadows at Hitsville for 18 years. I saw things, heard things. They told us never to speak. But some voices won't stay buried. Read this, then decide if the curse is real. The deeper you dig into Motown, the uglier it gets. The empire that gave the world soul music was built on dreams, yes, but also on control, fear, and blood. David Ruffin and Mary Wells didn't just fade away. They were erased, piece by piece, until nothing remained but questions and ghosts. Let me take you further into the darkness. 3. David Ruffin, the golden voice that was force-fed silence. David Ruffin didn't just sing, he owned the stage. That raw, pleading tenor made My Girl feel like a lover's whisper in your ear, made millions believe love could conquer anything. But David himself knew better. After Gordy fired him from the Temptations in June 1968 for his drug use and explosive temper, he never stopped raging against the machine. He told anyone who would listen that the label was rotten at the core, royalties vanishing into thin air, cash funneled through shadowy back channels, connections to organized crime figures who kept the lights on in the early days. By the late 1980s, he was openly bragging in Philly bars and hotel lobbies. "I'm writing it all down. Names, dates, proof. When this book drops, the whole house of cards collapses." He never got the chance. On the evening of May 31st, 1991, David checked into the DoubleTree Suites in Philadelphia under his own name, bold, almost daring someone to find him. Around 11:45 p.m., hotel security cameras caught him leaving the lobby with two tall men in dark coats and hats pulled low. No faces clear, no words exchanged on tape. He never returned. At 7:15 a.m. on June 1st, 1991, a passerby noticed a silver 1987 Mercedes parked crookedly on the 1600 block of Ridge Avenue in North Philadelphia. Inside, David Ruffin slumped over the steering wheel, doors locked from the inside, windows cracked an inch. In his jacket pocket, $2,137 in crisp bills, folded neatly. No needle tracks, no paraphernalia scattered. Toxicology later confirmed massive cocaine levels, enough to kill 3 men, but the body was too perfect. Hands crossed over his chest like in a coffin, seatbelt fastened, no signs of a struggle, no vomit, no mess. Police called it accidental overdose. Case closed in under 48 hours. The 2 men? Vanished. Hotel lobby tapes? Accidentally overwritten. The manuscript he was supposedly carrying, notes, drafts, taped interviews, gone from his room before noon. Room cleaned by housekeeping, but staff swore no one entered until police arrived. Barry Gordy never commented. No flowers at the June 10th funeral at New Bethel Baptist Church. The remaining temptations stood like statues, eyes hollow. Otis Williams later admitted in private that the night before the service, he woke up sweating from a dream. David standing at the foot of his bed, finger to lips, whispering, "They got me before I could talk. Don't let them get you." Old Detroit hands still swear they felt it. Ruffin's ghost slipping into dreams of former bandmates, his voice low and urgent. "The money's dirty. They killed me to keep it clean." Some say the overdose was no accident. He was held down, force-fed the drug until his heart exploded. A message. A cleanup. The curse doesn't forgive those who threaten to expose the blood on the grooves. And the silence after him? Deafening. 2. Mary Wells. The queen whose throat was cursed shut. You know that Mary Wells was Motown's breakthrough queen, the first to make the label explode beyond Detroit. My Guy in 1964 wasn't just a hit, it was a coronation. Smoky, sultry, heartbreaking. She sang like she knew love's sharpest edges. But she signed her contract at 17. No lawyer, no protection. For years, every million-selling single funneled fortunes to Hitsville while she scraped by on scraps. When she demanded a renegotiation in late 1964, Barry Gordy laughed in her face. She walked straight to 20th Century Fox. That was the day the blacklist began. Radio stations went quiet overnight. DJs received anonymous calls. Play Wells again and kiss your job goodbye. Promoters canceled. Magazines refused interviews. She fought back with lawsuits, but everyone collapsed. Witnesses vanished. Documents lost. Mary kept a locked metal box hidden under her bed in Los Angeles. Original contracts, royalty stubs, letters proving systematic theft. She told her closest friend Yolanda, "If they come for me, burn it or bury it, but don't let them take it." The cancer arrived in 1989 like a thief in the night. Laryngeal, throat cancer, the cruelest for a singer. She lost her voice inch by inch, communicating with scribbled notes and hoarse whispers. Doctors at UCLA were baffled by the speed. Radiation burned her esophagus. Chemo ravaged her body. She sold her last jewelry to pay bills. Motown offered zero help. In her final weeks, Mary wrote the same phrase on every hospital pad she could reach. "They silenced me." Yolanda said it wasn't about the cancer. It was about the label that had already stolen her platform, her money, her future. On July 23, 1992, something shifted. A large fan donation arrived. Mary rallied. She told Yolanda over the phone at 4:17 p.m. "I'm moving to Arizona next week for new treatment, and I'm suing again. This time I win." 3 days later, July 26, 1992, at 2:45 p.m., she was dead in her cramped West Adams apartment. Tumors had erupted overnight, airway swollen shut, lungs filling with fluid. Doctors called it aggressive progression. No one could explain how a woman improving so quickly could crash that fast. Yolanda arrived at 3:30 p.m. to find the apartment door ajar. The metal box? Gone. Drawers pulled out, floorboards pried, only that one item missing. Mary's near-finished memoir manuscript, What They Never Told Me at Motown, was with an editor downtown. That office was broken into exactly 4 weeks later. The only file stolen was hers. No forced entry marks, no prints. Gordy sent nothing. No card, no wreath. The August 1st funeral at West Angeles Church drew a small, tearful crowd singing My Guy in broken harmony. No Motown faces. Diana Ross stayed away. The rumor that spread like wildfire in old Motown circles was chilling. Back in the 60s, Gordy allegedly consulted a New Orleans root worker, a voodoo priestess, to curse rivals who threatened the empire. Mary's voice was the first to be targeted. The cancer's sudden, impossible acceleration? Payment on an old debt. Some engineers still claim they catch it on old masters, faint, raspy traces of Mary's voice layered beneath the hits, singing slower, sadder, like a final accusation from the grave. Mary didn't just die, she was muted forever. The envelope is empty, the truth is out. Believe it. Or pretend you don't. But the next time you hear one of those timeless songs, listen closer. You might hear the scream beneath the harmony. 1. Eddie Kendricks, the falsetto stalked to his grave. Imagine the soft glow of stage lights fading on a man whose voice could lift you to heaven. The silky falsetto that defined the Temptations, weaving through hits like Just My Imagination and The Way You Do the Things You Do. Eddie Kendricks was grace in motion, that high, ethereal tone wrapping around your heart like a lover's whisper. He co-founded the group in 1960, his elegance and choreography turning raw talent into polished gold. But by the late 1960s, the cracks showed. Motown's peak was a mirage. Behind the scenes, Gordy played favorites, funneling the spotlight to David Ruffin and Otis Williams while Eddie faded into the background. He demanded transparency. "Show me the books. Why do we sing while you get rich?" Gordy stonewalled. In 1971, Eddie walked out, chasing solo dreams with Keep On Truckin', topping charts in 1973. Freedom? It was an illusion. The paranoia set in like fog rolling over Birmingham, Alabama, where Eddie retreated in the late 80s. Heavy smoker for decades, lung cancer hit in 1991, diagnosed after a cough that wouldn't quit during a reunion tour stop in Detroit. Late that year, on a crisp November afternoon, he underwent brutal surgery at a Birmingham hospital to remove his right lung, hoping to halt the spread. Tubes snaked from his chest, machines beeping in the sterile room as he gasped for air post-op. Doctors gave him months. He fought for a year. But Eddie whispered to friends it wasn't just the cancer gnawing at him. "They're watching me," he'd say, eyes darting to shadows outside his modest home on Birmingham's outskirts. It started subtle. Black sedans idling at the curb on quiet evenings, engines humming like threats. Mail arriving already slid open. Bills, fan letters, even personal notes tampered with. Eddie confided to a close buddy over coffee at a local diner in early 1992, "It's Motown's ghosts. They set me up." The IRS raid came like lightning, agents storming his house at dawn in March 1992, seizing everything: furniture, records, even his gold plaques. Tax evasion charges, backdated debts he swore he'd paid. His accountant, a former Motown insider, recommended years back. "A trap," Eddie muttered. The stress accelerated the disease. Tumors metastasized faster than doctors predicted. He was piecing together a memoir, Behind the Temptation, scribbled in notebooks hidden under his bed, exposing the label's control, the unequal splits, the pressure that broke so many. "Motown's a velvet prison," he told a reporter in his last interview, voice weak but defiant, from his hospital bed in September 1992. Beautiful, glittering, but once inside, you don't leave whole. The end came on October 5, 1992, at 3:47 p.m. in a dim room at Baptist Medical Center, Princeton in Birmingham. Eddie lay gaunt, oxygen mask fogging with shallow breaths, surrounded by family. His sister found him first that morning, unresponsive after a night of coughing blood. Nurses rushed in, but the cancer had ravaged his remaining lung. Heart failure sealed it. Age 52. Gone. The memoir drafts? Vanished by evening. His best friend, who'd been given a sealed envelope days prior, open if I go early, returned home to find his apartment ransacked, safe cracked, envelope stolen. No fingerprints. Police shrugged. Burglary. At the funeral on October 10th at a packed Birmingham church, Barry Gordy and Diana Ross arrived fashionably late. The crowd erupted, boos echoing off the walls, shouts of, "You killed him!" Gordy's face drained white. Ross bowed her head and slipped out early. No official Motown tribute. The whispers turned to screams in Detroit's underbelly. Abandoned Hitsville studios echoing with a high, ghostly falsetto at midnight. Engineers fleeing, tapes capturing faint, otherworldly notes, like Eddie pleading from the void. Some say the black cars were Gordy's watchers, the IRS a final squeeze. The curse stalked Eddie, turning his velvet voice to ash. You can almost hear it now, the falsetto fading, a warning in the wind. And if Eddie's shadow lingers, Marvin screams louder still, a rebel prince cut down in his own castle.